Hey, folks, welcome to the pre-show. It is now 9 o'clock and 16 seconds. And, of course, that won't last for long. That'll keep changing. But this is the first 3 minutes of the show, which are intensely devoted to the pre-show, making sure we're all set up, all our sound levels are right, and our stream is ready to fly. So there we go. Yo, Grumpy Stack, how you doing, brother? Good to see you. And we are set. So all we do now is just wait until showtime, 3 minutes after the top of the hour. For anybody new here listening or watching, you would be watching because we don't go audio except over on the radio station. And that comes up at 3 minutes after the top of the hour where we go live. So we're just chatting right now. Just us, just intimate. Hey, Carlene, good to see you. Welcome. As people start to enter, Josh Kemp, good to see you, brother. So we got just a couple of minutes left now, 1.5 minutes left, and we start broadcasting. Feel bad, made a buttload of money off my parents today. No, I wouldn't feel bad if it's legit. So you didn't like rob them or anything, did you? So grumpy. So what do we got? We got just about 9:02. So we got 1 more minute. We're getting home. So good timing, said Carlene. All right, Carlene. Now, remember, the first hour of the show is broadcast over on the radio station. I cannot take calls while we're broadcasting on the stream. There's something that's been haywire that we just can't find the fix for, and I don't have time to find the fix. But we can do it after we are done on the radio station, and we stay live over on the YouTube channel. So for those of you who stay for the after show, the Captain's Cabin, that's where we can have some... conversation. Grumpy Stack says it paid some bills. Yeah, well, isn't that the truth? See this stack right here? This is a stack of bills. See that one? It's pink. So that's, yeah, I understand bills and paying off bills. So, what do we got? Time to go live. Going dark.
Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey, folks, happy Wednesday evening. This is it. This is the Intrepid radio program. I know you've been waiting all day for it. I'm Scotty Roberts, your host. Welcome. You can hear this show live in its audio format over on Odyssey Radio, Subspace Odyssey Radio, and several different places you can hear it live in its audio format. I'd go over to Odyssey Radio, ODYSY radio.com. You can go to Subspace Odyssey, subspace.radio. So there's all these different places. Russ sent me a whole list, and of course I don't have it up in front of me. You can also view the show in its video simulcast over on my YouTube channels. On my YouTube channel, that's Mr. Scotty Roberts. Nope, not Mr. It's just Scotty Roberts. YouTube.com/Scotty Roberts, or go over to the Facebook pages, my page, Intrepid Radio page, Subspace Radio page, etc. And you can find this show live in its video broadcast, simulcast. Also, if you're over on the Facebook pages and you want to chat, you're not going to see all the chat that you can find over on the YouTube channel. So go over to youtube.com/Scotty Roberts, and you can join the chat room with the fellow Intrepheads who are all gathering. Welcome to everybody who's in there, those I've said hi to, those who are coming in, those who have not shown their faces yet over there, but you're there. Welcome anyway. You don't have to go into the chat room if you don't want to. So welcome. If you're new to the YouTube channel, just click on the subscribe button, and you'll get notifications of this show. you can also click on the join button and find ways to join this broadcast. So thank you all for being here tonight. How's everybody? How's your day? Today was gorgeous here. It's been up in the 80s after our blizzard of about 10 days ago, where we had that foot of snow. It was a week ago Saturday where we woke up to all that snow. And, well, we knew it was short-lived. It's a spring blizzard. Well, it's been in the 80s now. It was 85 degrees today, which was gorgeous and not very humid, which makes it very livable. And so 85 degrees outside. You come down into my downstairs. We don't have air conditioning on yet. We just open up all the doors because it's nice. It's spring. It's not humid. And so I came down here. It's almost 20 degrees cooler in the downstairs. That bodes well for summer, I think. The heat of hot and humid coming our way. So there's 12 in chat. Hit the thumb. Oh, from Delaney. Hey, Delaney Pearl Jones. Yeah, there's 12 of you here. Hit the thumbs up if you're in the chat room here. And so just because you're in the chat, you only see 12 people in the chat room, doesn't mean there's only 12 people listening. So over on between the radio station and here, if you're here listening and you want to, you can join the chat room. Come on over. But we already said that, so we'll move on. Hey, Steve Clark, haven't seen you for a while. Good to see you over in the chat room and everybody else who's coming in. So thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me your time. I appreciate that. There was, let's see where I put them. I thought they were right here, and they aren't. I moved them. I had those cards. I was going to do a little impromptu card. Let me see if they got moved over here. Nope, they didn't. But you know what we can do? We'll hit one of these, which we haven't done for a while. I like these because it makes me think extemporaneously. The Spark Courage, 50 Ways to Be Bold. And this is just a little, if you remember these, little faux box of fake matches that have messages written on them. And Rainey got these at a garage sale for me a couple of years ago. And so we do these on the show every day. And I like to draw these to see what we can talk about. Say no to something you would usually accept out of obligation. Now, that's a way to be bold, it says, and to be courageous. Here it is, right there. Let's see if I can put it in focus. Say no to something you would usually accept out of obligation. What are things that you say out of obligation that you go, being forced to do that? I do not want to do that, or I don't. You could, the worst end of it is I don't believe that, but I have to do this. Or I'm being forced to do this family thing, friend thing, work thing. Things that you're forced to do out of obligation. Have the wherewithal. You could say the balls. You could say the nads. You could say the fortitude, the courageousness, the boldness to stand up and say, you know, I do that out of obligation, but that's not something I'm going to do. Just say no to those things. And, you know, there are so many things that we are roped into because we allow ourselves to be, and we keep our mouths shut. We don't say what we're really thinking. We don't express what we really want to do. And sometimes it's because we don't want to hurt feelings. Sometimes it's because we feel if we don't do that, we're going to hell or whatever it might be. Maybe there are things out there that you're obligated to that you can take a stand and say, these are the things that I believe, and this is what I'll stand on. And it doesn't have to be, not everything has to be a mountain you're going to die on if you say no to it. But what are the things that you're obligated to? That are things that you say, hey, I don't want to do that. If you hear shouting, that's my wonderful wife and children upstairs, constantly a war upstairs. Nobody pays attention to the fact that I'm on the radio. So they just shout and do their own thing anyway. They'd bring it right down here shouting at each other. So it's an hour a night, folks. That's all it is. An hour a night, guys. And so, but it's closing in on bedtime on a school night. And of course, because it's hot outside now or warm outside and the sun's up longer, nobody wants to go to bed on time. So there's probably some shouting that's revolving around some of that. So if you hear that, just disregard it. It's just my family. It's what they do. All right? Nothing matters. What are you obliged to do? How about when nothing matters if you're mad about something? Doesn't matter anymore. Nothing, no goodness matters, no propriety matters, no sense of common sense matters, no pulling the brakes, pulling the reins. I get mad about stuff. I'm obligated. I'm a dad. And so I'm obligated all the time. Can I say no to being a dad? No. Can I say no to practicing like a dad some days? Yeah, because I'm doing other things. It's like today. I was gone all day working, and I came back and I had work to do here we're launching. You can see up in the upper right-hand corner, up there, the Patriot Propaganda. That launches on Friday, so we're putting all the extra stuff for that together. And so I'm busy. I walk downstairs, and not within 5 minutes, I'm into something. I'm working on digital stuff, and my kid comes in and says, "You asked me to do something. Will you go hang this swing for me?" It's like, I would love to hang that swing for you, and I love those irreplaceable moments of time when you were aware of them. But sometimes you're obligated to things. Do I say no to this and go, okay, I will put this aside for another hour and go hang your swing? I can't do it. I can't afford to do that. There's some things you got to say no to, even though you're obligated or even like to be obligated to it, but you got to make choices. Some things you have to do. You're obligated to do them. Some, as in this, obligation on two different ends of the spectrum, family and business. And when you've got a deadline, sometimes you got to release an obligation, one or the other. Hey, Carly Sagan, good to see you. Hey, Michael, good to see you as well. So all that Matchstick said was sometimes it's okay to say no to things that are obligations, the things that that have become almost mandatories for you. Cast off the bow lines, sail away from the safe harbor. Explore, dream, discover. There's the positive side of that. The things that tie you down. Sometimes, with that Mark Twain quote that I quote a million times, the good thing about that is that sometimes it's okay to cast off from the safe harbor, from the things that are the things that keep you tied down, the obligations you have. Say no to them sometimes and try something different. So there you go. That's all that comes extemporaneously from those. That's this little box of Matchstick Courage, Spark Courage, 50 ways to be bold. So that's a good thing for me, too, to just pull these out and just see what's on my mind and talk about them. So I encourage you to do some of that stuff. Now, tonight, Jesus. We just went through, like Halloween. When you see Halloween comes around, all the news stations for 2 weeks ahead of Halloween, they've got their ghost stories and their haunted houses and their ghost hunting things. Did you know that here in Minneapolis, there is a group of ghost hunters and they like to find ghosts? Well, now that it's spooky Halloween time, let's talk about that. Stuff like that, news stories like that. It's all over. Same at Easter. What do you get on the Christian side of the coin in April? You get Jesus and the crucifixion and Christianity. On the Jewish side, you get Passover, because that took place at the same time, those two events, Passover and the crucifixion of Jesus. So you get those things being celebrated at the same time. But so I'm talking about Jesus from a respect of things that I have heard over the years that I don't have a lot of patience for anymore. Was Jesus a socialist? That's the first big question, because we get all these things from people that want to paint Jesus into a socialist corner, that this is who he was. He was a socialist. And because he was kind and good and promoted helping the widows and the orphans and giving of yourself to them. He said to the rich man, sell all your goods and follow me. And what was his statement after that? He said, I'm going to tell you. He says, it's easier for a rich man, or it's harder for a rich man to make the gates heaven or go to paradise than it is for a camel to walk through the eye of a needle. It was a point he was making. We're going to get to that a little later. Was that a statement of socialism? You need to sell everything you have and make it common goods to everybody? No, that wasn't what it was. He was making a point. And we'll get to that point. So my first thing, I'm going to jump to the conclusion, and then we're going to go through this. Was Jesus a socialist? No, Jesus wasn't a socialist. Socialism doesn't have to be a bad thing, said Sarah. I think you're talking about doing things that help people on a social level, probably not governmental socialism, because there's a big difference. Christian charity or Muslim charity or charity as it's preached in Judaism, all of those things being voluntary and heartfelt by their teaching source, Jesus taught it's voluntary. It's of your heart. It's an utterly distinct thing from the compulsory, impersonal mandates of the state. That's not what Jesus preached when he preached his version of socialism, if you will. And there's another thing, too. When I just said that, the version of socialism, we have to water down our language so much these days because there's so many things that we're now, well, okay, socialism's okay if you look at it from this angle or this or that or the other. Everything's got multiple definitions anymore. There are, I had a book about 30 years ago I read talking about the new absolutism is that there are no absolutes. And so nothing is absolute. You can't make empirical statements anymore because there's always 300 other ways to look at it. Well, I think sometimes you have to boil off all the dross, and what you're left with is the pure gold of the actual intent of what was said. So socialism, Jesus is a socialist, says Sarah Youssef, in a way that he was accessible to everyone. Is that a socialist, though? By the way, you would define governmental socialism or socialism as a political thing. And Sarah, I'm not trying to challenge you in public other than take your question or your statement. I don't think they're the same thing. So the claim that Jesus was a socialist has become a really popular refrain, especially amongst liberals and leftists, even from some whose Christianity within Christian circles is more of a lukewarm Christianity at best. You know the kind I mean. I go to church on Sunday because I'm a Christian. That makes me a Christian. I'm a Christian. I go to church on Sunday. I go to church on the holidays. But it's like, what was that old little ditty? It's really old. I had an old pastor 50 years ago that used to quote this. He'd say, I'd like to buy $2 worth of God, please. Not enough to stir my soul or to engage me on a daily basis, but just enough to equal a cup of warm milk in the sunshine or in the shade of a tree. I don't want to stir my soul. I want $2 of God in a paper sack. I'd like to buy $2 worth of God, please. And it's that idea of God is to me what I need him to be. I used to say in my own life, I would look at it. When I was in ministry, I'd say, I sometimes treat God like my lucky rabbit's foot. You know what I mean by that? God's my lucky rabbit's foot. I'm okay and I hop, skip, and jump through life and I say I proclaim Christianity, but it's never a real thing to me until I need God. God, I have this bill to pay and I don't have any money. Please send your money. Oh, God, my lucky prayer rabbit's foot. I'm going to call on God now. Or I need God because somebody in my family got sick. Or I need God because of this, that, or the other thing. So we pull out the lucky rabbit foot of God and we use him for our own purposes. Is that really pursuit of God? Is that really being Christian? Is it really being Jewish? Is it really being Muslim or anything else that's out there religious-wise? If we use the religion just to kind of suit us when we need it, but don't expect me to live it when I have to deal with people in business, when I'm yelling at my kids, or when I'm out partying, or whatever it might be. And that was one of the things that I really taught to the youth group when I was a youth pastor on a very superficial level, on the youth level, at the roots, and saying, are you what you say you believe, or is what you believe the thing that you use when you need it? And so that's what I mean by lukewarm Christians. I went off on a little rabbit trail there. Sarah, I don't know if you're asking why not be that way. I think because it's hypocritical to be that way. That'd be my simple answer. But is there any truth to the fact that, or to the notion that Jesus was a socialist? That's what we're talking about. And so the question can't be answered without a reliable definition of what socialism actually is. Do we know what socialism is? A century ago, it was widely regarded as governmental ownership of the means of production. Jesus never once even hinted at that concept in his teachings, let alone endorsed it. Yet the definition has changed over time. Like I said, our definitions keep changing to match what we want to do. It's like that song I've quoted before. It's a slightly different topic, but it's a guy praying in his song. He said, would I know you now? He's talking to God. If you walked into the room, if you stilled the crowd, if your light dispelled the gloom. Or, and it's talking specifically Christianity, if I saw your wounds, touched your thorn-pierced brow, I wonder, would I know you now? And then he goes on in the bridge of the song, he says, or have the images I've painted so distorted who you are, that even if the world was looking, they would not see you, the real you? Have I changed the true reflection to fulfill my own design, making you what I want, not showing you forth divine? Now, that's a very Christian song, but take that concept. If you're a follower of God, a believer in God, do we make God fit into the mold we want God to fit into in order to substantiate our justifications for how we do things or how we see things? Or the fact that I'm not going to go that far. I only need $2 worth of God, please. So, and it all depends. Maybe that's the why not Sarah's asking. Why not be that way? You can be that way. It's your choice. I'm just saying, if you're going to, there's something that always bothered me, and it all really wraps, I'm rabbit trailing all over in little tiny rabbit trails, but it's all in this central point. I know people who will quote the Bible to substantiate their claim. This justifies my claim, but they'll ignore other parts of the Bible because it doesn't fit their lifestyle or what they want to believe. I'm going to cherry pick this. So in other words, Jesus might be good enough to quote on this thing because it fits my argument, but he's not good enough to quote on this thing. And I'll find ways to justify why it shouldn't. So this is the type of thing I'm talking about with claiming that Jesus is socialist. They'll look at certain things and try to morph that into a justification of socialism when it's nothing of the sort. When the critiques of economists such as Ludwig von Mises, F.A. Hayek, and Milton Friedman, when they demolished any intellectual case for the original form of socialism, and reality proved them to be devastatingly right, socialists shifted to another version. Central planning the economy. So one can scour the New Testament and find not a single word from Jesus that calls for empowering politicians or bureaucrats to allocate resources from the government, to pick winners and losers, to tell entrepreneurs how to run their businesses, to impose minimum wages or maximum prices, compel workers to join unions, or even to raise taxes. Jesus never talked about those things and addressed them. It was antithetical to his message. Those are things that comprise what socialism can be defined as today. So when the Pharisees attempted to trick Jesus into endorsing tax evasion. What about taxes to Caesar? And what did Jesus say? He cleverly allowed others to decide what properly belongs to the state by responding, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. He said, because he said to them, he says, hey, who's got a coin? He says, give me your coin. He holds it up. Whose image is on this coin? That's Caesar. So give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to God what belongs to God. Nonetheless, one of the charges that led to Jesus' crucifixion was indeed tax evasion. They were pissed at him for saying that. They couldn't catch him in the trap. So, changing the definition. With the reputation of central planners in the dumpster worldwide, socialists have largely moved to a different emphasis on the welfare state. And the socialism of Bernie Sanders, say, the socialism of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is that of the benevolent, egalitarian nanny state where rich Peter is robbed to pay off poor Paul. And it's characterized by lots of free stuff. We'll give you free college from the government. The government's giving you free stuff, which, of course, isn't free at all. You pay for it. We all pay for it. It's quite expensive, both in terms of the bureaucratic brokerage fees and the demoralizing dependency that it produces among its beneficiaries. So is this what Jesus had in mind? Is that what he taught? Christianity is not about passing the buck to the government when it comes to relieving the plight of the poor. Jesus never said, take care of the poor by having your government do it for you. Hardly. Amid the holidays, it's especially timely to think about helping the poor. Christmas, Easter, all those points. And it was, after all, a very important part of Jesus' message was helping the poor that you have around you. And how helping the poor is to be done. It's a mighty important thing. How it's to be done is a big however. Christians are commanded, and I would say Jews in the Old Testament, Muslims to a certain extent, I'm sure. I say certain extent because I don't know the Muslim scriptures. But Christians are, and by the way, I'm only doing that. I'm only going from Christianity to Judaism to Islam, and there are hundreds of other religions. I'm only doing that to show that this encompasses a lot of different trains of thought. So Christians are commanded in Scripture to love, to pray, to be kind, to serve, to forgive, to be truthful, to worship the one God, to learn and grow in both spirit and character. All of those are very personal things. It's not something that Jesus said your government should be doing this for you, which, by the way, is really one of the basic reasons I really don't support the religious right in this country, the so-called religious right. I believe in some of the things they put forward. However, I do not. The religious right would have a government that is as bad as anybody else that would be doing or that would be running government. If they want a theocracy, maybe they believe that's the way it should be, but that's not the way it should be in this country. They require no politicians, no police, no bureaucrats, no political parties, no programs, all these things that the scriptures tell us we ought to be doing to live. What did Jesus say himself? The poor you will have with you always, are always going to be there. And you can help them anytime you want. Jesus said that in Matthew 26:11. And again in Mark 14:7. Maybe the other way around. Mark 14:7 first. Mark was the prototype. So the key words there are you can help and want to help. He didn't say we're going to make you help whether you like it or not, and it's going to be mandated by our government. Sarah says over in the chat room, Sarah Yusuf says, helping the poor is a pillar of Islam. Required charity called zakat. Zakat, if I'm saying that right. So it's required charity. So maybe that's religious socialism. That's a different kind of a thing. If it's something you must do. In Luke 12, 13 through 15, Jesus was approached with a redistribution request. Master, speak to my brother, the man said to Jesus, that he divides the inheritance with me. And Jesus replied, man, who made me a judge or a divider over you and your brother? And then he rebuked the petitioner for his envy. You're being envious of what your brother has. It's not my business, not your business. Now, that's between you and your brother. It's not what I'm here to teach you, he said. So Christianity isn't about passing the buck to the government. The Bible, following God, isn't about passing the buck to the government when it comes to relieving the plight of the poor. Caring for them, which means helping them overcome their poverty, not paying them to stay poor or making them dependent upon the state, has been an essential fact in the life of a true Christian follower, a true Jewish follower, Muslim follower for 2,000 years. Well, 1,300 in the case of Islam. Longer in the case of Judaism. So Christian charity, being voluntary and heartfelt, is utterly distinct from the compulsory, impersonal mandates of the state. So was Jesus socialist? He was socialistic in the sense that he cared for the people around them. He was not socialistic in the sense that he believed that the government should do that and impose those things. Jesus never, and I'm speaking, of course, strictly to Christians on this one, in Christianity, Jesus never said, it's your duty and you must, and the government must be there in your place to make you do these things. No, he said that's a matter of your heart, is what he told people. Josh Kemp says more of a libertarian here, self-responsibility for everyone, less government, the better. I agree. And that's from my point of view and your point of view. Jesus didn't teach about that. He taught to the human heart. And of course, the topic is, was Jesus a socialist? We can bring in all the other religions if we want. But my point is, I wanted to respond to this notion that I keep hearing out there and over again, that Jesus was a socialist, that he would support social government today. And I dare say he would not, unless he's changed. So what does the scripture say? Don't take my word for it on what Jesus said. Consider what the Apostle Paul wrote in the New Testament. Now, for as much as and I've put this disclaimer in before, as much as I believe that the Apostle Paul may have hijacked Christianity, and you had Pauline Christianity or Herodian Christianity, you had Jewish Christianity, that was Peter, as much as you had these different sects, and by the way, if you think Christianity isn't divided and that, true Christianity isn't divided, it's divided from day one. We're talking in the lives of Peter, the lives of Paul, and all these guys. But Paul said, no matter what he said, if he hijacked Christianity and made Pauline Christianity, some of the things he said were not bad things. Just because of that, if you believe that. 2 Corinthians 9:7. Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, he said, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. So don't do it because somebody tells you have to do it. Do it because you want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, look at the condition of your heart. What's your heart telling you? Josh Kemp says, everything I was taught was charity for people and nothing mandated. Exactly. Charity isn't a mandate. Carlene says, see what socialists have done for us? They say they want a living wage. And now we have a lot of people out of jobs or barely working part-time. That's very true. So in Jesus' parable of the Good Samaritan, you remember this guy? He's traveling on the road and he gets attacked by thugs. And they steal his money, take his stuff, probably his clothes, and they left him for dead on the side of the road. A man was traveling, and a Samaritan came along. And Jesus used Samaritans because they were at odds with the Israelites at that time, Judeans. And so the travelers regarded as good because he personally helped the stricken man at the roadside with his own time and his own money and his own resources. If instead he had urged the helpless chap to wait for a government check to arrive, he would likely have known him today as the good-for-nothing Samaritan. So that passage was all give out of your time, out of your resources, give from your heart. And you do these things because you have God indwelling in you, is the idea. You want to be like God or be like Christ in Christianity. And it wasn't by the way, it wasn't a mandate to say, you'll only go to heaven if you do these things. It doesn't say that. It says, if you are a follower of Christ, if you are a Christian, if you are a follower of God, these are things that will naturally occur to you to do, and you should do them. So these were admonitions against misplaced priorities, not class warfare messages. And still, the whole class warfare, I brought this up at Christmas time. One that drove me absolutely insane was when, and I heard it more than once, but I heard the Reverend Jesse Jackson years ago was talking about Mary and Joseph on what we celebrate as Christmas Eve. Going to Bethlehem, couldn't find a place to stay. They got put up in a stable, which was a cave. And he's talking about their poverty. And therefore, we should look on those who are impoverished. And he was pushing a socialist agenda, by the way, Jesse Jackson. And he said, we need to look on these people in their impoverished ways and what we can do to help them. Because take a look at the example of Mary and Joseph. Well, I kind of bristled at that notion when you look at it with facts and history. Say, wait a minute. Wasn't Joseph, his whole life, he was like a contractor. He was a carpenter. And as we've read in scripture, carpenter in the Koine Greek was synonymous with stonemason. And they found a lot of evidence that Joseph probably would have worked, not direct evidence, but that Joseph probably would have worked in the town of Sephora, which is just a few miles walk from Bethlehem. And that because of all the stonework there and the building of that city and so on in that very time period. So it's likely that Joseph worked there. But Joseph, being a carpenter and a stonemason, was probably not an impoverished man. When Joseph took Mary and they traveled for, according to Luke, they traveled for the census imposed by Tiberius Caesar back to Nazareth, or Bethlehem, from Nazareth, that they were there and there was no way to pre-book unless you send a message or something like that. So they had to go to the census. They go into town, and what happens? It's overcrowded. Everybody's there for the census. All the rooms are taken. All the inns are full. It was probably a crowded mass of people, and they couldn't find a room. Was it because he was impoverished, like Jesse Jackson and others have contended? No. He had the money to stay somewhere. They didn't just give him the cave because he was poor and traveling and didn't have a place to stay. He went for the census. And so he probably took what money he had for an inn and helped the people out. That's the given. We don't know that. We don't know all the facts behind it. But Joseph probably was not a poor man, is my point. And we don't need to look at them as an example of people that we need to help out because they were not impoverished. He was probably, I don't know if he was well-to-do, but there aren't many carpenter stonemasons I know that do that for a living and have been doing it for 30 years or more that are penniless. It's just the facts. So, Jesus clearly held that compassion is a wholesome value to possess. But I don't know of any passage in the New Testament that suggests it's a value he'd impose by force or sword point or gun point or governmental socialism. In other words, by socialist politics. So socialists are fond of suggesting that Jesus disdained the rich. He hated rich people, citing two particular moments: his driving off of the money changers from the temple, and his remark that it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into heaven. They hailed to those two remarks, said Jesus hated rich people, just like you can't be a good socialist unless you hate people and hate rich people and say rich people aren't paying their fair share. When they do, they just make more money than you do. So in the first instance, Jesus was angry that God's house, as he called it, was being misused. And he never drove a money changer from a bank or a marketplace, did he? No. Where did he drive them away from? Why was he pissed off? Why did he kick over their tables? Why did he took some leather straps and crafted a little whip and was whipping at him, tipping over there? He was violent. Why did he do that? Did he go to the banks and do that? No. Did he go to the seat of government and do that? No. Did he go to the marketplace and do that? No. What did he do? He did it in the temple. And he said, this temple is a house of prayer, and you have turned it into a den of thieves. And that was, he did it twice. Second time was the week he was crucified. And this is where the Sanhedrin, the Jewish council, were kind of pissed at him. He's taking away from temple profits. Profits, Profits, not prophecy, profits, money. And so they were kind of pissed off at him because he was cutting into that. And Jesus reminded the people there. How do you think he was able to hold them out for 3 days? By force? No, he stood and he reminded them what this place was. This is a house of prayer, and you've turned it into a den of thieves. And you know what? He kind of stayed away. I think he kind of hit him in the heart, some of these merchants. And they're like, he's right, you know. And so Jesus was angry that God's house was being misused. And in the second instance, when he's talking about it's easier for a camel to go through an eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into heaven, into the kingdom of God, he was warning that with great wealth, great temptations come too, from the man he was talking to. That's why he said to the man said, should I sell all my goods and follow you? Or no, how did he say it? He says, I can't remember how he approached Jesus with that question now, but Jesus' response was, you can follow me, sell everything you have and come and follow me. And it says the man went away grieved because he had lots of possessions. And so the point that Jesus was making was that he was warning, if you've got great wealth, great temptations come with that. And don't let your wealth get in the way of giving your heart to God, was his point. He didn't say, by the way, he didn't say give all your wealth to the government so they could distribute it, redistribute it. He said, give all your wealth and give it to the poor and come and follow me. It's like he was putting a test at the guy's feet, and the guy went away grieved. And so there were admonitions against misplaced priorities, not class warfare messages. So did you know that creating wealth is actually a virtue? But distributing it is not. In his parable of the talents, do you remember this one? Jesus talks about a man who entrusts his wealth to 3 servants for a time. And when the man returns, he learns that one of the servants safeguarded his share by burying it. The second put his share to work, invested it, and multiplied it. and the third invested his and generated the greatest return of all. So who's the hero in the parable? According to Jesus, it's the third guy, the guy that invested it and increased its worth and made the most money from it. So the wealth-creating third man is the hero of that parable. The first one is chided and admonished, and his share is taken away from him and given to that third guy who increased everything. I'm going to take everything you have away and give it to the other guy. That doesn't sound very socialist, does it? So the one guy who said, I'm going to save my butt by burying this money so it's always here and I'll always know where it is and I'll be able to tap out of it when I need it. Second one expanded it, hired workers, did more than the third one, invested it. And he's the guy who was the hero. And he got the share of the guy who buried it from the master. What does that tell you? Jesus actually praised the building of wealth because it's smart. Then you go to in Jesus' parable of the workers in the vineyard. Do you remember this one? The workers in the vineyard. The story upholds capitalist virtues, believe it or not socialist ones. In that parable of the workers in the vineyard, the story upholds capitalist virtues. When some workers complain that others were paid more, remember, it said he was paying all these guys a certain wage for a day's wage, be it I think it was called a talent, a measure of money. Call it a buck. He was giving everybody a buck for their day's work. Times have changed before inflation. And then so they worked for the day, and then another guy came at the last hour of the day because the owner of the vineyard said, we are so shorthanded, I got to bring in some other guys. And at the end of the day or the last portion of the afternoon, he brings in a few more workers and he pays them all $1. And the other guys are like, hey, how come they get $1? We worked all day and get $1. How come they get $1 too? They only worked 2 hours. And the owner of the vineyard said, didn't you work for what you agreed to work for? He says, you agreed to that. He says, I made a different deal with these guys because I needed them. They get the same $1 you get, even for working less today. I made the rules, he said. So these workers complained that others were paid more. And the employer rightfully defends the right of voluntary contract, private property, and in effect, the law of supply and demand. And Jesus taught that as this was the smart guy. At Christmas time and throughout the year, Jesus would want each of us to be generous in helping the needy. We all know that. We all believe that. But if you think he meant for politicians to do it with police power at twice the cost and half the effectiveness of private charity, you're not reading the same New Testament that I am, that many people are. You aren't even talking about the same Jesus that existed, because that's not what he taught. So, was Jesus Christ a socialist? Ask yourself again when we define what socialism is and what he actually taught. How does the Bible help Christians with politics? Politics often dominate much of our conversations, our prayers, our thoughts. Oh, I pray that this candidate will win and save our country. You might believe that, but is that what we're to be doing? They dominate us. We all feel that the stakes are high when it comes to the way our world is being led and organized. And that is true. The stakes are very high. For believers in God or in Jesus, when voting, advocating, speaking about politics, we have the filter of biblical truth to consider. So the Bible can act as a guide for our approach to politics, helping us come to form conclusions about our personal political worldview. This is, I think, how the religious right, this is where they've drifted from it. The Bible helps us form conclusions on a personal level. Applying the Bible to the realm of political thought gets tricky. And at times for believers, because God and Jesus didn't offer us hard and fast rules for how leaders should organize our world. Again, I'm in a Christian context here. So what Jesus did offer us is instructions on how to live our lives, how we should treat other people, how we should treat our neighbors. And a neighbor wasn't just the person that lived on either side of your yard. Neighbor meant your fellows, the people that were around you, your community. And Jesus charged us to honor and to pray for our leaders. This means that there are so many ways believers can approach politics, from a Christian worldview, a Jewish worldview, a Muslim worldview, a Buddhist or Hindu worldview, and feel we're letting our faith guide us. So there's no one-size-fits-all approach to political issues. As a matter of fact, I bristle when I remember George W. Bush, he said something like once that he prays for God's guidance in decision-making as the president. And people got all over his shit for that. Why? Well, there's supposed to be separation of church and state. Well, the separation of church and state was not something that said a certain politician or president or leader or legislator can't have personal faith and guide their actions by that. Didn't say that, ever. That's not what separation of church and state is about. It means that you cannot make law, you cannot govern in a theocracy, and that religion is to be free from the state. That's why the First Amendment exists. So Jesus offered things to guide our political decisions, and then he said the decision's up to you. You got to do what you need to do. Let's get on with this stuff. You need to be this way, this way, this way, and this way in your heart. Now, appreciating nuance or asking for godly wisdom, seeking God in prayer, taking in consideration context are some of the best tools that we have to help us do our best when fulfilling our civic duties. And they might lead us to unexpected places when we attempt to live our faith as we engage with the world. Christians and the freedom of conscience in politics. The Bible binds my conscience to care for the poor, but it does not tell me the best practical way to do it. Any particular strategy, high taxes, governmental services versus low taxes and private charity, may be good and wise and may even somewhat be inferred from other things that the Bible teaches, but they are not directly commanded, and therefore we cannot insist that all believers in Jesus or in God or in Allah, as a matter of conscience, follow one or the other. So they are, them's more like guidelines. So what is socialism? Remember, let's come back to this. What is socialism? Socialism is defined as a political and economic theory of social organization, which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. Now, is that a bad way to live? You live in a commune or a kibbutz in Israel. You share everything you have with everybody around you. Is that a bad way to live? Probably not. But you have to be convinced in your heart that that's the best way to live. You can't impose communal living on somebody else because they have a right to freedom of choice in that. So socialism, as a governmental form or political form of government, rejects the idea of private property, and it calls for a more centralized public ownership of land and goods. So socialism is the opposite of capitalism that allows for individuals to own property and build their own wealth. So what are some common misconceptions about socialism? We've only got a few minutes left. We've got about 3 minutes left on the radio. So I'll skim through these, but we've heard the term socialist attached to anyone who's promoting policies that support social welfare programs. The current political climate is thriving by using the tactic of extremist language on both sides of the aisle to create damaging divides in our country. This strategy energizes voters, but polarizes individuals. And so you can see that I've seen dialogues that say things like, I've witnessed online used by those on the left and the right to they've likened it to like being in a bad marriage when they try to look at socialism. So many times as you scroll through your Facebook, your Instagram, whatever you're on, your feeds, you see terms like they are all socialist or they're all racist to negatively generalize an entire half of our nation. And so what we forget we're talking about is real people that are our neighbors, our friends, our family, our coworkers. Using inflammatory language is infuriating, no matter if you lean left or you lean right on the political spectrum. It doesn't leave any room for understanding what people with different perspectives truly value. Socialism, taken to the extreme, rejects individual freedom and democracy. Yet it's possible to be an advocate for freedom and democracy and even believe in a free market while supporting policies that share resources with those who may need them in our society. So many of us benefited from these sorts of policies, especially during the COVID crisis. So as Christ followers, those of you who are Christians, we're called to care for the least of these, those who have nothing in our communities. And many may see these policies as one way to accomplish this calling. But we have to be careful how we allow rhetoric to lead us to prejudge ideas and people. And there's so much more on this, so much more on this. We may spill it over into another day. All of those of you over on the radio station, I want to thank you for being here. We got to get out of here. And so I want to tell you, live long and prosper. Join us in the captain's cabin. Here we go.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hi, well, welcome to the Captain's Cabin, all of you who stuck around. If you're listening on the radio, you're welcome to join us here. This is the after show, the post show, the afterword, the afterglow of Intrepid Radio. So we'll see how far we go tonight. I'm busy, just burning it at both ends these days. And I'm on top of being tired, I'm busy still. And I got stuff I got to do yet tonight when I'd rather be sleeping. But so that's after show talk. So if you want to come on in and talk, we can talk for a bit. And anything about what we were talking about tonight, if you got some thoughts on that, be interesting to hear what you have to say. And so I welcome all of you, those of you who are here. And we'll see where we go. Oh, we got Field Guy came in. Sorry, my mic was once again in the way. All depends on where I have my computer screen. And sometimes I adjust my mic and it's right there and it's right in line on my screen with somebody popping in. There he is. Field Guy, how you doing?
Doing good.
Right on. What's going on?
Not much. I was doing a live stream and I forgot what day it was. So I did miss. I'm gonna have to go back and watch
the middle of the week.
Yeah. Well, I was only going to do an hour, but then I had all these people jump on there, and I was like, well, I guess I got to.
Maybe I'll do more than an hour.
Well, I was telling them to come on here, so I mentioned your channel a bunch of times. So I was like, come on in. I said, I'm going to the Captain's Cabin. Y'all come on follow. Now, whether they do or not, I don't know, but.
Yeah. Somebody came in during the show, and private messaged me and said, hi, can I join, please? Somebody named Chase with a Y, Chayse.
No idea.
And I saw in their little thing, it was a blonde woman, and she was looking, and I thought, this is not somebody from our chat room. And sure enough, then posted something and said nigger across it and this and that and the other thing. And it's like,
good old trolls. Yeah.
So I answered and I said, nope, you cannot come on the show.
I hate when they do that.
What Barbie see? I tried to tell him, LOL.
No. Well, you probably tried to tell him when he's doing the radio because he's focused. I mean, and I get it. You're focused on doing your topic. I understand that.
Right.
But, yeah, I see your topic was Jesus a socialist. Was as far as opinionated or politic or.
Well, no, you get a lot of people in politics that like to say Jesus was a socialist and they try to push socialist agendas, socialist politics and government. And it's like, oh, wait, you're missing the point. If you think Jesus was a socialist, he wasn't. So that's what I don't
know how they can say Jesus was a socialist. None of us was there to begin with. So
that's right.
I mean, or unless somebody's got a time machine and I'm not aware of that went back in time and interviewed Jesus, and they had a Jesus press conference that said, "Who do you like for the 2024 election?" And then he said, "I like this person." Then
Jesus would have voted for. Well, we don't know that.
Yeah,
here, look at this. I got this thing here. This is for my diabetes. It's
diabetes.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's got a big spike in it. Yeah, slap it on your arm. It's adhesive. And my thing just warned me a few minutes ago that it's out, and I got to replace it. So,
I should get something. I'm getting tested for that because,
right off.
I probably have it. It's yesterday. Yesterday, I was standing up, and all of a sudden, I felt lightheaded, and I almost passed out. Good Lord.
So, there it is. Whew.
Where the hell were you at, Elvis? I'm disappointed, sir. I was doing my live stream. You didn't pop in. I'm disappointed. I'm glad you're here, though. You got to support Scotty. Everybody's got to support
thank you, everybody that's coming over from and Elvis. Thank you. I see Elvis quite regularly.
Yeah, because I recommended Elvis to come up in here, so he does, He don't like the Saints, but that's okay.
Yes. Here we got Matthew Sainsbury's here too. Hey Matthew, how you doing?
I'm fine tonight. Not too bad.
Matthew,
what's going on?
I find the conversation you had there about Jesus was quite interesting.
Thank you.
There's a guy who was I was listening to on YouTube. He passed now, but he had an opinion about Jesus that the Gospels were trying to be a little bit of a apologetic or something concerning Jesus because he was trying to say that what Jesus did in the temple was not a non-violent act. You know, when he tossed around the money changers and did all those things and spoke
Yeah.
against the. Yeah, it
You
was
gave him the boot.
Yeah, he threw out tables and what we call assault. You know, so.
Yeah.
And also, there's another verse to in scripture where he tells persons to sell a cloak and buy a sword, you know, and that is more a militant statement to make rather than a passive statement, you know. So
Right.
this guy was trying to make a point by saying that also to Jesus tell a person that if a Roman tell you to carry their burden for a mile, you know, you can go 2 miles, and so he was trying to say that those were added into the gospels to
Right.
like tranquilize the, you know, was what the Jewish people were facing during the time of Jesus under Roman occupation wasn't easy at all. So they were trying to. So this guy was trying to say that some of what was really gospels was a bit of apologetic, like or something like that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. And by the way, Carlene Smith, I just put her post up. She said Jesus couldn't be a socialist. A socialist from Vermont owns 3 houses and never worked a real job.
Got a point there.
There's the truth there. And
Yeah.
as far as Jesus goes, I think he wasn't a socialist. He pushed the condition of the heart.
Yeah.
So
That word might have not even been invented back then.
socialism,
Yeah.
probably in
think
a
so.
different form, but
Nah.
as far as I know,
Communism and all those are modern words. And they were not really existed
Right.
back then.
I think it's like when all the actors, when they go up to the Oscars and they say, "I'd like to thank God for my acting." I'm like, okay.
Mhm.
You ever notice that's the same syndrome?
yeah,
At least I compare it to that. It's like, okay, like, yeah, I like to thank, and they name 47 people, and they go, "Oh, I'd like to thank God also." Like,
yeah.
okay.
Well, I think there's a little something to that in that, you know, somebody who has real faith might say, all this ability is a gift from God. It's something he allowed me to do. I do that with my art. I can say,
that's what I say too. I
There
think
you
all
go.
artists are that way.
It's God given. I liked Rush
God-given
Limbaugh. Talent on loan from God.
Yep.
You know?
He was fun to listen to.
So,
Rush
yeah.
Limbaugh had that voice where he could just, you know. Oh, I'm sorry, Matthew. Go ahead.
Yeah, because Leonardo da Vinci actually painted stuff that was beyond his time. I mean, he painted rockets and tanks and all that stuff hundreds of years before they even existed. So some people wondering if he had inspiration.
Just by virtue of that, not to pick on the words you're saying, because it's a thing. I have a thing with this. I don't think anybody can be ahead of their time. I don't think Da Vinci was. I don't think anybody we claim, and he was so ahead of his time. Well, then he wouldn't have been able to do it, would he? He wouldn't have conceived of that if he was ahead of his time. That was the thing of his time. He might have been ahead of his time in the sense that there was not a way to implement some of those wild ideas he had.
But I think that's what that means. I look at Jules Verne. Jules Verne wrote about nuclear submarines and things like that.
Man going to the moon too. Yeah.
Me too, Chad Sanders, by the way, says, I miss Rush and Paul Harvey. Good day.
Even Robert Stack on Solved Mysteries said when Jules Verne wrote about man going to the moon, people laughed at it and thought it was junk, but that's a reality now.
Yeah.
Because man been walking the moon now since 1969. So although some people like to say that the moon landing was fake, you know, and it was make believe.
Yeah, I got a problem with that. I don't think.
Well, somebody recently posted something about there's a certain. I can't remember the exact words. They say, the moon landing is fake because there's a radiation belt around the Earth that doesn't allow anything outside that without getting fried. I'm like, I've never heard of that before.
Thanks, Josh Kemp.
But okay. They also said the flag was blowing in the wind too. That's another sign that it was a fake thing too. I heard about that.
Yep.
Yeah, they said it was blowing. Oh, there's no wind on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know,
there's not.
There's no wind, but there's also the thing with the lack of gravity. If the flagpole's bouncing, it's going to continue to bounce. There's nothing.
It'll bounce for 30 years.
Yeah.
There's no inertia in space. Meaning you can travel the speed. You may keep gaining speed, but there's nothing there's no atmosphere to slow you down.
Yeah, so it's not like gravity
of engines to slow yourself down.
No.
Yeah.
So
some people who come out from the moon and so in space even have certain symptoms where they have giddy head feelings and things like that because they're accustomed to the normal gravity that we're accustomed here on Earth. So
right.
Yeah, it messes around with people's body. That's why they sent John Glenn up when he was like 77 to test all of that stuff. I don't know what they ever proved on it. I guess to see how it would affect
Old
the
farts can fly.
That old folks can fly too.
Yeah, why not? Send them up there.
There it is.
But if these extraterrestrials that people talk about and the ancient aliens and all these programs, because fly in spaceships and do all of these types of things, they're sure that they probably have a much more highly developed system than human beings have. Because, I mean, some of these ships move so fast, we can't even duplicate that. So,
Right.
Well, look
So
at
what
how
do we say?
gravity affects our body. Just getting to turn 50, gravity affects us.
Oh yeah.
So being in a weightless environment, when you're in your 80s, I'm sure that felt wonderful.
Probably did.
Instead of compressing it probably decompressed him. He's like came back 6 feet tall.
yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, I was just gonna say.
There is the problem of the G's you pull on the way up. That would probably be excruciating. But
Yeah.
I'm alive. I feel good, and then you re-enter the atmosphere.
All the
I'm
centrifugal
dying. I'm
force.
dying.
Well, your nose was here. Now it's up here with the centrifugal force.
Yeah.
You pulled your face this way.
Well, that's like I say. So I make fun of it, but I used to be 6 foot my whole life. I'm now 5'10" 7/8. Where'd the
Shrink all the
inch and
time.
an eighth go, Doc? You said you're compressing.
Yeah, if you go to a chiropractor and they do that ring dinger or they do that
The ring dinger,
one of them there's a guy in Houston. There's a guy in
ring dinger
Houston.
and the flip jabber.
There's a guy in Houston. He calls it the ring dinger, where they compress your neck and they pull it. They all call it different things, but you get
I
into
got my
this
chiropractor. He'll take my head and he'll do all this and go snap, and it's like in the movies that kills you. But on a chiropractic table is good.
Yeah,
for
it's like oh, but
Yeah, I got one of those last week. It felt wonderful.
you. Barbie D says, "I really don't think I want to see myself floating." LOL.
Well, you weigh less in space.
Oh yeah.
That's what they say.
Yeah,
You don't
weigh
look
anything in
less,
space,
but
do
you weigh less.
I'll take that. Weighing, I don't have to look like it. If nobody's out there to see me, if I feel like it, like all right.
Yeah. I heard of an astronaut who actually, when he went to the moon and he looked at our planet from a distance and got a good image, a good photograph of our planet with the ocean and the clouds and everything. He just said how we are so, a very particular, special, beings living in this big, vast universe like that. And how we've been trashing the planet and fighting wars and doing all these things, instead of caring for one another. I heard that in a statement. Yeah.
I liked William Shatner's reaction after he went up for 3 minutes into space.
Yeah.
You saw him. The man was in tears.
Yeah.
Seeing the vastness of what was and something very different for him. And I still like Charlton Heston reading the opening to Jurassic Park. If you've ever heard him do that, that was phenomenal. The Earth, he says, the Earth will outlive us all. And that Moses voice. Michael, how you doing, sir?
Good night.
Hanging in there, bud.
Right on.
Yeah, I was going to tell you that is real good subject. I was out working and then I had to run back here to the house to charge my phone for a minute. Hope it don't burn the woods down.
Oh,
I was like, yeah, I had to come plug my phone to get the rest of it.
all right. Well, I'm glad you made it in. Hey, Valerie. Valerie's here too.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm
Uh-oh, not hearing you, Mike.
Audio.
Lost you.
Oh, you're kind of
now.
there. You are.
Come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Still playing with the echo here. I still don't know why StreamYard does that to me for.
I don't know.
There's a sort of a glitch in StreamYard
Lost Michael.
sometimes.
Oh, there.
Once in a blue moon, it does that glitch where it'll go in and out. But
Right.
Yeah.
I
I
noticed
came
that.
out one time. I couldn't hear one time.
Try us
before.
back, Michael, if you can still hear us. He's having some tech issues over there. So
Yeah.
anyway, I brought that up. Charlton Heston's reading of Jurassic Park because of what Michael said or Matthew said.
Yeah.
Trashing
Yeah.
the planet and so on. I think we can be bad stewards of what we have or good stewards of what we have. I don't think we'll ever destroy the planet. The planet may destroy us, but if we're not careful.
The asteroid's going to come down and say, well, I killed the dinosaurs. Y'all are next. Sorry.
Yep.
We have to make way for the crustaceans to take over now.
Yes.
Yeah, they said I hit the Yucatan Peninsula. That's why I helped wipe out the dinosaurs.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's see. This is YouTube. I wanted to find this text. I think this is really good.
Yeah.
Is this a video or is it a? Let's see. Where is it?
Crab meat is good in salads.
Here it is.
Crab meat is good anywhere.
Here, listen to
It's
this.
real crab meat.
Listen to this.
Sure.
And imagine Charlton Heston reading it. Wish I had a voice like he had. But he says, "You think man can destroy the planet? What intoxicating vanity." By the way, this is written by Michael Crichton. It's out of the book Jurassic Park. And he says, "What intoxicating vanity. Let me tell you about our planet. Earth is 4.5 billion years old. There's been life on it for nearly that long. 3.8 billion years. Bacteria first, later the first multicellular life, then the first complex creatures in the sea, on the land, then finally the great sweeping ages of animals, the amphibians, the dinosaurs, at last the mammals, each one enduring millions on millions of years, great dynasties of creatures rising, or as Wendy would say, dynasties, flourishing and dying away. All this against a background of continuous and violent upheaval. Mountain ranges thrust up, eroded away, cometary impacts, volcanic eruptions, oceans rising and falling, the whole continents moving, an endless, constant, violent change, colliding, buckling to make mountains over millions of years. Earth has survived everything in its time. It will certainly survive us. If all the nuclear weapons in the world went off at one time, and all the plants, all the animals died, and the earth was sizzling hot for 100,000 years, life would survive. Somewhere under the soil, frozen in Arctic ice, sooner or later, when the planet was no longer inhospitable, life would spread again. The evolutionary process would begin again. It might take a few billion years for life to regain its present variety, of course. It would be very different from what it is now. But the earth would survive our folly, only we would not. If the ozone layer gets thinner, ultraviolet radiation sears the earth. So what? Ultraviolet radiation is good for life. It's powerful energy. It promotes mutation, change. Many forms of life will thrive with more UV radiation. Many others will die out. Do you think this is the first time that's happened? Think about oxygen, necessary for life now, but oxygen is actually a metabolic poison, a corrosive gas, like fluorine. When oxygen was first produced as a waste product by certain plant cells some 3 billion years ago, it created a crisis for all other life on Earth. Those plants were polluting the environment, exhaling a lethal gas. Earth eventually had an atmosphere incompatible with life. Nevertheless, life on Earth took care of itself. In the thinking of the human being, 100 years is a long time. 100 years ago, we didn't have cars, airplanes. Now, this was 30 years ago, this was written. We didn't have cars, airplanes, computers, or vaccines. It was a whole different world. But to the earth, 100 years is nothing. 1,000,000 years is nothing. This planet lives and breathes on a much vaster scale. We can't imagine its slow and powerful rhythms, and we haven't got the humility to try. We've been residing here for the blink of an eye. If we're gone tomorrow, The earth will not miss us.
What a
So
speech.
I thought that was pretty profound stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't
Well,
think
and I
people
think-
made it back
I
in.
think civilization has risen and fallen thousands of times over
Oh,
the
yeah.
years. You know,
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
cultures we have no connection with because of great catastrophes that have happened, the asteroids
Floods.
and the floods and whatever
Right.
else. You know,
Mhm.
I love crabs, Sarah Yusuf.
Yeah, because I
Crab
heard
and
that.
shrimp. I like shrimp. I like boiled shrimp. I love broiled shrimp.
thanks,
I
Bubba.
love baked shrimp. I love shrimp souffle, shrimp soup, shrimp in cabbage, shrimp in a salad. I like, and that's about it. So, my daughter
Yeah.
Rowan and I share that, by the way, Uncle Dave. You didn't know that? Every
What?
now and then, Rainey will treat us, and she'll buy, this is for Rowan. And Rowan goes, that's for me and Dad. It's one of those big round things you get at the store with all the peeled shrimp.
Shrimp on it, yeah.
Oh, man.
Mm.
You could sit and sometimes Rowan and I just stand at the countertop in the kitchen. We're dipping it in sauce or something and eating them.
Nice.
Love shrimp.
Shrimp is good.
I love shrimp
What was
too.
the point again? Sarah asks. What point are you on, Sarah?
Crabs are awesome. So is shrimp.
She
That's
said,
the-
I'll trade can't eat sausage. Gumbo, shrimp gumbo. Says,
You can't have a gumbo without shrimp and sausage.
No, I don't think
Yeah.
you could.
Yeah, that's weird.
You can't. Especially down here, they look at you like, "What are you?
Because
What?"
then you're just eating shrimp. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but
Yeah.
but a shrimp po' boy.
Yep. Poor boy capital down here. I like
Well,
shrimp
we
po'
could
boys and
suffocate
oyster
you,
po'
Valerie.
boys, fully dressed.
Mm.
Sometimes I mix them
how did you-
together.
How'd you start talking about crabs, Sarah?
Who's got crabs?
I missed that.
Sarah
She's
just said
talking
she
about
likes
crabs.
crabs.
I like crab. Was it something we said here or I said or something somebody said in the chat room? I was just looking.
Probably
Trying
the
to
chat.
find out what the original point was.
Don't know.
So
I don't know.
throw some
As
crawfish
pirates, we
in it.
used to always do crab jokes, and then I would reach into my britches and pull out a big red plastic lobster and go, "Oh, he's a captain. I don't have crabs. Oh, he has lobsters."
I had lobster.
I can't eat
The chat
crawfish.
conversation.
Doesn't
I don't
agree
know,
with
Sarah. I got lost in that too. So
I
I
wish
think
I
it's
could.
anywhere anybody wants to be.
I honestly wish I could eat crawfish, but it doesn't agree with me too.
Oh man,
too well.
when I was in Louisiana
Mhm.
2 years ago, we had the Mexicans would do a big crawdad feed. They'd have the big barrels of crawdads and they'd lay it out on. They'd broil them all. They turn bright red, and we had the man. And it had
Yeah, you gotta
corn
purge
in
them
it
first
and
before you,
potatoes and corn cobs in it and potatoes. That they
Nice.
Man, was that good. They'd lay out a big 8-foot table by 4 feet.
Mhm.
Just a mountain
They
of
do.
crawdads.
How do you purge them?
Salt water.
Ah,
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I
I
heard
love
that.
crawdads, Sarah.
Soak
Me
them a
too.
couple, 2 or 3 times, because you get all the. They got all the. They're mud bugs. They're full of mud.
yeah.
Yeah, they're
So-
mud bugs.
Yeah,
they
because
taste
I
good.
yeah, I made a stand at one U.S. presidents. I think it's
I
Warren
thought
Harding.
so, Michael. Mike had some tech problems. If you get restored, come on again. We'll be here for a little bit yet.
Yeah. Yep. Salt water purges them and everything. Sometimes you got to wash them 2 and 3 times
That's
to
good.
get
to know.
everything out.
I've never fixed them before.
Mexicans did this.
I fixed them. I just can't eat them. I think I'm allergic to them because
You might be. There
Food
are
allergy.
allergies.
yeah, because like I get nauseous and I get really, really dizzy.
Mhm.
These Mexican guys, they made something that went with, I don't know what we were eating. I just remember they sat there and I was helping them for about 45 minutes, taking like big bags of limes, cutting them open and
called
squeezing all
Patron.
the lime juice.
Yeah,
Yeah. And you didn't cook the what were they cooking in that?
Ceviche?
Shrimp? Big shrimp, but you didn't
Huh.
cook them or broil them. You just put them in the
In the lime
lime
juice.
sauce,
It's ceviche.
lime juices and stuff.
It's
and all
ceviche.
kinds of-
yeah.
Oh,
What's it called?
Ceviche.
Ceviche. That
I
sounds
need that.
Usually
very
with
nice.
Well,
The
but
crawfish-
that's what it is.
Hey, Michael.
You're cooking fish in the acid of the lime.
Right. And so it's basically sushi, because you're not
No,
really
it's
cooking
cooked.
it over fire.
No, but you're still cooking it. You're cooking it with the acids of the lime.
That was really good. That was enjoyable.
Crawfish alone won't fill you up. That's why they throw in corn,
Corn and-
potatoes,
Right.
various other things. Some people
Well, I don't
throw
know.
onions.
I got pretty full
Yeah,
on
more
crawfish.
satisfactory.
Oh no,
I
there
don't
goes
eat
Michael
corn.
again.
Drop it again.
I like corn.
So
Um,
there it is. Sarah said it's
The human body
Yeah.
wasn't designed to process corn.
Yeah.
Okay.
and it doesn't.
It comes out exactly the same as it goes in.
Yeah, it does.
The
It's
only
like,
thing it
oh.
extracts from it is sugar, and that just adds to your diabetes and your
That's
weight.
pretty much it.
yeah.
So-
I don't-
All the
I don't
vegetables you
usually
really
eat
like corn, potatoes, all bad for you. What are tomatoes? Nightshade plants.
But you know what's not bad for you?
Yeah.
Porterhouse steak.
Porterhouse steak is
Steak.
really
Good
good for
ribeye.
you. Yes.
Yeah. Bring me a cow. I'll chop that sucker up.
Good fiber, good fat. It's all good for you.
Sorry you're having problems over there, Michael. Would love to
Yeah.
have you in here.
Yeah, the crawfish bowl during the summertime.
Mesoamerican crops. All
pretty good.
Mesoamerican crops, says Sarah.
Well, I know the GMO is not a good thing. We should buy all of our stuff from Europe where they naturally grow things, or ban Monsanto from entering a farmland again.
There you go.
Yeah.
Whatever's
A lot
left
of plants
of them.
nowadays that put
Now
preservatives
that'll get you
in.
demonetized and kicked off
Barbie
of
D can't
YouTube.
eat steak anymore. Oh, Barbie D, I'm sad. Can you eat meat
no.
or just not steak?
Personally,
I
if
would-
they told me, they told my mother went to the doctor now she's been exercising real good. She's lost a couple of pounds. She's getting muscle tone, just walking and doing exercises at the gym. But they told her, she went to do her cholesterol test. It was still pretty high. They told her, don't eat meat of any animal. And she's like, okay, what about bacon? Doctor's like, no. And she goes,
Yeah.
well, that's what she eats in the morning, bacon and eggs. She goes, I'm not giving up my bacon. I'll give everything else up but bacon. And she has. And she went to the doctor yesterday. Her cholesterol dropped like 50 points or something.
Nice.
Like really big. And the doctor's like, did you give up bacon? No. She goes, I gave up everything else, but not bacon.
Nice.
Yeah, I
I
stopped
have
eating a
problems
dozen
with-
eggs in the morning.
I have
Yeah.
problems with bacon myself because one time I was eating bacon one time for breakfast. I had a situation where I could not sleep. When the doctor checked my blood and saw he actually found parasites.
Hello,
and I said,
bacon, he
"Fuck
said."
that." Yeah.
Bacon's
I
a
don't
national pastime. Like
I like
it's
bacon.
its own thing. Yeah. You wake up in the
But,
morning, you eat bacon.
Now that
Yeah.
it's 85 degrees outside, I think we're going to start cranking up the grill.
It's always
Maybe that-
85.
We got a
Yeah.
propane grill out there, and that haven't
Certain foods
fired
don't
up.
agree with everybody.
I have a grill in the back when the hurricanes hit and the juice knocks it out. I have something to cook on.
Uh,
I got to get me a generator this year. I keep putting it off. I'll wait until they have the sales. They have a thing in Louisiana with the no sales tax at the end of May, where you get all the supplies, batteries, no sales tax on it, batteries, generators, anything to do with hurricane supplies, candles, no sales
good.
tax.
you went through Hurricane Katrina field guide?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, because I
But
Well, so thanks for that.
it wasn't that bad here. We just had my the fence was on the roof and the awning got blown 3 miles away.
Nice.
Yeah, I wasn't living
Just
here at the
really
time.
good.
My brother was living in this place. I was living down the street in the apartments, but I was far enough away from the water where it didn't flood.
Good.
So,
Right.
What,
Yeah,
Sarah? Bacon got a bad rap since the... Oh, bacon rap. That's all I heard there.
I have no
Bacon got
idea
a
what
bad
that
rap
was.
with
Bacon.
Gerasene
wrap sounds good.
exorcism. What was the Gerasene exorcism?
A rabbi said, "No more pig for you." Like, I don't know.
They
I've
haven't
never heard that.
See, I understand the food laws back in the biblical times because
Yeah.
obviously shellfish and
They didn't
pork
have the-
in a hot desert climate, it's not going to last. There's no, unless you're going to cook it like immediately after slaughtering it or catching it.
Yes.
It's not going to last. Whereas
Well,
red meat
yeah,
like
climate.
lamb and beef and things like that can be cured in the heat.
I got to
the-
tell you,
Other things don't.
there are places that talk about steak over in the chat room. My son-in-law, Zach, and Bryn, my daughter, before they were married, they had me come down to, I went down to paint the mural down there on their studio.
Yeah.
And they took me out to dinner. And because they wanted to ask me, what they ultimately did, they were asking me if I would officiate their wedding. And but they took me out to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, and which is a great steakhouse. But some of the steaks there, I'm looking at the menu. I've still guy saved the menu as a souvenir. But I'm looking at the menu, and it's very classy. You know, it's like a card, and it's small type, lots of white space, and no frill. You know, and it was talking about this one steak. It was like, I go, oh, that looks really good.
$150.
Yeah. Try like $375.
Whoa,
And
expensive,
I'm like, you
boy.
got to be kidding me.
Ruth
And
Chris.
Zach says, you get whatever you want. And I said, I want that, but I'm not getting it. So I got like the cheapest steak, I felt like, which was phenomenal, by the way. It was like $125 for a steak. And now that's a lot of money, but you eat it and you go, that was really worth eating. I'm glad
They're a pretty good place.
Very
I
filling.
don't know. I'm a chef, and I just can't bring myself, because I'm like, I can't imagine it's worth $300.
It's
You know
not.
what I'm saying?
What?
Well, Ruth Chris is it was founded down here.
Yeah, and we have one up here too. I'm familiar with them, but I think you're paying for a name.
Rainey's got a birthday coming
Pretty
up
much.
at the end of the month here, and so I want to take her out for.
Well,
She loves steak. And
I don't
we
know
haven't
who
been out for
owns it
steak in a
now.
long
She
time.
passed away a couple of years ago.
I
So
think
I don't
you
know.
guys-
I don't know who owns it now.
I think you guys would have a lot of fun at the Texas Roadhouse.
Oh, I've been to Texas.
We go there
Roadhouse,
all the
yeah.
time. We go
We
all
have
the
those
time.
here too.
See, now she's gluten free. So when we were down in Texas, she went and she had a real tough time finding something she could eat.
At the Texas Roadhouse?
Yeah, they didn't have a gluten free menu, if I remember right. Now she got something. She got steak and so on, but she couldn't get any sides. She couldn't get any. So, hey, Sarah, by the way.
Yeah,
Hey, guys.
So, anyway.
What's the thing with bacon getting exercised? I need to learn that.
Yeah. What's that all about? The Gerasene exorcism? What was that?
There is that biblical story where Jesus come across a man.
Needed by Malagadara.
The Gadarenes.
Gathering.
Yeah.
Oh, I have no idea.
And bacon got a bad rap since
The
that.
pigs and now the whole thing.
In deciphering that story, you want to ask the question, if this took place in Israel, who the hell had a herd of pigs in Israel?
Yes.
Or was it, did they go, we can't eat them, but we'll raise them and sell them to the Phoenicians or whatever? I don't know.
Yeah,
It's either that or they were wild.
Simcha Yakovovich, he had a
But who in the
program where
Middle
he
East
believed,
eats that?
yeah, but Simcha Yakovovich, he had a program where he believed that Jesus and disciples actually sailed into the Mediterranean and went across by Spain and Morocco and a place called Gadiz, which is the area between and he believed that that's where the story the gatherings
That was
occurred.
actually very good documentary.
Yes.
Shimka Yakubovich he put together.
He does a very good
really
job
cool.
in some of his documentaries, though. I
He
find
doesn't
so.
think the Gadarenes was in
Not in the land of Israel itself. Because Jews don't rear pigs. So.
And an interesting thing about that was that there is a settlement of people there that are Christian in Spain. This place that's got a very similar name, a similar rocky coastline.
Yes,
and so on.
Cliff-like
and ancient cemeteries right there on the coastline, which was
this man dwelled in tombs.
Story. And but they are a sect of Christianity, not even a sect, a community that's been around for 2,000 years, very small, like several families, a little community, and their beginnings of their community, they said, started when Jesus visited them.
Yeah.
When he was still alive, pre-crucifixion, that he came and visited there. And so it's a very interesting story. All it says, they got in the boat and they got off at the Gadarenes. And
Well, and they had a boat. So, I mean, he just sails out and sails back. He generally sailed to something.
But there was a reason he went there. There was something he had to do there. So what was that, Sarah?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I thought you said something. I'm sorry.
I thought you did.
I thought you did too. We all heard it.
It wasn't me.
I don't know.
I don't know, Sarah. We all heard it.
Don't know about heard things. I'll tell you this, though. When I was doing my live stream earlier, I had somebody on the panel. And
Will do, Valerie.
I could not tell you what happened because I was talking to her, and all of a sudden, this flash of blue light came behind her. And she goes, "Did you see that?" I went, "Yeah, what the heck was that?" And then it happened again. And I said, "You must be haunted. Something's going on there." And she goes, "Is it an orb?" And I said, "I have no idea, but it looked like it." So I don't know.
My grandma.
Could be.
Yeah,
By the way, Valerie says, say a prayer for Kenny Ballos. He's a body scan tomorrow. And, that figures, Valerie. I've been out all week in the mornings, and I got tomorrow I'll be here, and now he's not going to be here tomorrow morning. So. But I'm assuming he's not going to be here in the morning.
I don't get a chance to see Kenny's show in the morning because by the time he comes on, I'm at work.
I slept until 1 o'clock today.
Although I do get left in the store alone for 45 minutes, so I probably could put it on my phone, but I just forget because I'm always busy.
Sure.
Most of the time, I'm listening to the ghost.
As most of you who listen to Ken's show know, he's been diagnosed with cancer. And so he's got a pretty good attitude about it. I mean, he's like, if it's my time, it's my time. He says, I'm not going to change doing anything. If it happens, it happens. He says he's going to, work with the doctors and maybe try some other things. Rainey sent him some things, and I know other people have too. So he may come on when he gets home. His scan's at 8 a.m. Okay, which is 7 a.m. here. So
what's the dude that's on? What the hell did he have? There's a guy. I don't know how true it is. There's a guy that had terminal cancer, and he was trying to figure out how to beat it, and he wasn't listening to. He was taking, from what I understand, he was trying to figure out what to do. And then he was taking certain doses of vitamin D, or was it vitamin C? And he was taking dewormer,
yes, Rainey showed me that very video.
Yes, and he beat it. And the doctors were like, "Oh, it's not because of that."
Him 3 months to live, and 3.5 years later, he made this video.
Yeah, he's still around
wasn't
today.
pumping a product, or anything like that. He was just saying, "This is what I did."
Yeah, because I forgot what type of.
Did you have
the doctor's expectations? Yeah.
No, I was asking.
What do you think of that stuff? Because you're closer to the medical field than any of us.
I was asking what type of cancer was he diagnosed with?
He had lung cancer.
Yeah.
I thought. And so it was. Ken has some masses in his lungs.
Oh, okay.
And
that would contribute to his voice lately, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's why he even went in and checked on it. His voice was completely gone months ago, and
that's usually a sign, because they always say there's like certain signs that people sometimes they don't ignore or they don't pick up on right away.
Small cell lung cancer, Sarah.
Yeah.
Which is rough.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
He'll beat that. I got the odds on him. He'll beat it.
So I hope so.
Yeah.
Either that, or we raid the facility where the cure is. There is. I know there's a yellow bottle somewhere in some top secret facility that someone has somewhere.
Probably.
Probably been sitting on it for 50 years.
Well, there's no money in the cure, as they say, but there is a lot of money in the treatment.
Yep.
So
we can cure everything today.
We have got to end that way of thinking.
Yeah. And I don't know nothing about it, to use proper English. I don't know a thing about it. Yeah, he went to the doc for his heart, and they found the cancer. That's what happened with Kenny.
I'd sue that doctor. That's not what he's supposed to be looking for.
That's it.
I'm like, okay, if I had a ball on my ass, then you'd be looking at my teeth. Wait a minute, how does that work?
Yeah.
Oh, your heart's fine. Oh, by the way, we found.
Speaking of that, I'm hungry. I was gone I didn't eat this morning, and I was gone from. I left it at 7:45 to take the kids to school. I got home around 2:15, and I was just hitting that diabetic low because I hadn't eaten anything, and I'm not a big breakfast guy anyway. So I got home and I was feeling it walking into the house. And I was like, man, and this is all leading up to something. And so I got in the house and I thought, what can I eat that's got good sugar in it, but not too much? And your brain starts to go, because you start getting a little loopy. It's like, okay, I got to get some sugar in me. And sugar, water.
Yeah.
Remember that from Men in Black. And so I had a bowl of cereal. What was it? It was Frosted Flakes. And it just wasn't what I wanted. It's not what I wanted to eat, but I ate the Frosted Flakes. And then, of course, I took a little nap after that. It's like when you get those low blood sugars, I react more poorly to those than the highs. Because the low, you get a little loopy, a little shaky. You catch it, you nip it in the bud. But then it's like, okay, nappy time. My body tells me. And
that's why I think I have it.
Otherwise known as a diabetic coma.
What? Yeah.
I get the food coma.
Wasn't the coma?
The other day I was at work and I was checking out somebody and I had to sit down because I felt like all the energy drained out of me. I was like, okay, I got to sit down. And I was like, yeah, can you check this person out? Because I felt really like you said, loopy.
I haven't had anything to eat since that bowl of cereal. And I was just thinking, I'm looking at all the comments and, we were talking about steak and mushrooms and I'm like,
oh man, now I'm hungry.
Yeah, it's almost 11 o'clock at night, but I got to eat something. So,
yeah, definitely. I know I'll eat something before I go to sleep, probably.
Did you manage to fix that problem with the overnights, with the meter?
With the meter, yeah, I did. It seemed to balance out. I was having a thing. I was talking to Sarah about it. Not on the show, just because she's got knowledge of this stuff and with what she does. And I said, I'm not sleeping because I got this, that attachment I had that I just ripped the one off that's now expired as of 3 hours ago. And it sets off an alarm if I go too low. And that alarm would go off at 1:30 in the morning. I'm like, why am I low? I ate something. So it's like, okay, I'm low. I got to go up and I got to put a little food in me. So I go get like a spoonful of peanut butter, just slam it or slam an 8-ounce glass of apple juice or something. I go back to bed and then it would wake me up at 2:30. Beep, 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 beep. The alarm goes off and shrill. That was happening every night, 3 times a night. And I'm like, I'm not sleeping. And so I talked to Sarah about that. I just tried to equal things out a little bit. And so now it hasn't happened since then.
Okay, that's good.
But I have woken up now. I don't have an alarm for the highs, but I'll get up. Sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll just for the hell of it, I'll check it. Bleep, where am I at? Oh, you're at over 400. And I thought, how did I get over 400? I haven't eaten anything. I haven't done this and that. And so that's only happened once. And so I would just drink water and I'd take a shower.
Probably because your body.
If you haven't eaten all day, then your body will automatically go into the mode it's taking. It's converting the fat into sugar. From
there it is.
And then you go into ketoacidosis. From the lack of.
So all that to say, there's like a nice lasagna sitting upstairs. Now that's carbs, because it's got pasta in it. But Rainey made this homemade lasagna, which is
nice,
glorious. I got to go up and have some of that.
That reminds me of something like my
Good night, Valerie.
My aunt's diabetic, and she takes the shots. I think the shots in the stomach or the shots in. I don't know what it is, but she takes shots.
Valerie, if you're still there, by the way, pardon me, before she goes, if she hasn't left already, if you're still there, let people know where you're going to be on Saturday night for your show. Go ahead,
I'll
Field
come-
Guy. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, you're fine. I'll come check out the show. Why not? But one time, when I go to her house, I prick my finger or thumb or whatever it is, and I hadn't eaten nothing the day before except for like McDonald's. I ate like a sausage McMuffin, and then I didn't eat nothing that night because I wasn't feeling particularly well. Well, I woke up the next morning. My aunt was taking a blood sugar. She goes, "You want to take yours?" I go, "All right." Beep. 285, and I go, "Is that good?" I said. She goes, "I said, is that good?" She goes, "I said I haven't eaten nothing in 24 hours." But it goes back probably what Sarah was saying with the acid ketosis thing, and you know,
ketoacidosis.
So there's my.
I got it backwards. Pardon me. But,
like what this little meter does. This is my last 24 hours, and it went out at after 9 a.m. this morning. The thing died, but so there it is. That's that green is my normal range.
See you, Barbara.
That's where I've been for the last 24 hours. And I dropped real low at when I went to bed last night, 12 a.m.
Wait, hold it up again. I'll narrate something. Be like this. Be like this. Okay. This is where my YouTube channel was. It's going down. Look, now it's going back up steadily.
But it's all in the normal range.
Well, what is it defining normal range? Because you can tell it what you consider normal.
That's arbitrary. They punched that in for me.
Yeah.
They said my normal range is between 70 on the low side, and they put about 175 on the high side, which is high, but because I've been running high. Mm-hmm. So I'm ranging right now. The highest I was about 130, and the lowest I was about 60 in the last 24 hours. So.
But I mean, just make sure before you have that lasagna to check it and see, because you probably will have to adjust your short and your long acting. Because remember, the short acting only covers for at the most 2 hours, and then the long acting is what you have that's going to cover.
That's what you were telling me the other day.
Yeah.
So to try to moderate,
cover the rest of the night. So if you're dropping late at night, then you probably need to cut back on your long acting, or at least it's like where you're starting at, and then you booster up and down. So if you're not going high as much in the beginning, you cover it with the short, and then you kind of even it out.
Eat a couple jelly bellies and go to bed.
Yeah, there it is.
I've always had the theory, like they always say, don't eat much before you go to sleep because your body digests and it warms you up and it keeps you awake. And I'm like, whatever. But
that's an old wives' tale, but I mean, it's true.
You live in the South. In the North, we like that whole concept.
And then when you're going into your sleep state, your body's functions, reduces down, so you're not metabolizing.
No.
Or it's being focused on metabolizing because you have food in the stomach. So.
By the way, biking off-roading, which is Michael, he came in and said Valerie's show is Saturdays at 7 p.m. Just go over to her Facebook. So if you want to join Valerie.
That's Elvis telling everybody I'm great, like usual.
There he is, Field guy, number 1 draft pick, 2075.
Yeah, I'll be alive then. Why not?
Peanut butter or banana sandwich, toasted, and if possible, deep fried like a Monte Cristo.
Well,
you
there
forgot
you go.
bacon and making it into like an Elvis.
Oh yeah, bacon's an excellent addition to that.
See, I try to get grandiose. When I wake up in the middle of the night or my blood sugar goes low during the day, I like to think, well, I'm going to go cook something. And usually by the time I'm in the kitchen, sometimes I can do that. I think I'm going to control this mentally. I'm not going to let it overwhelm me. I know my blood sugars are low and it's physical, but I'm going to, let's not go off the deep end. Let's get out the bread, or we'll get out the thing and we'll do the thing.
I know, but it can be overwhelming for a lot of people because it seems like a lot. I mean,
well, it is. Sometimes it is for me. Is my point with that.
So like even with, the things like lasagna.
Yeah.
If the issue is the issue with lasagna is, of course, the carbohydrate. So if you use, that's why, they always promote whole grain, whole wheat, because it stays in your system longer instead of, the high processed, flours and stuff. Those tend to go quick. They'll spike you up quick versus a slow release carb will, slow it down you're pushing it over a longer period of time. That's why some people, eat oatmeal in the morning.
But that's worse for your A1C.
Yeah. Yeah.
I honestly don't get what A1C is. I see the commercials for it. I'm just
Yeah,
like,
the
my body's,
A1, yeah, the A1C is like it's a number that it's like your average. It's a scale, but I mean it's an average blood sugar level over like the past 3 months. It's like an average, a rolling average.
Oh.
So if you're running into like the 200s or 300s, you might have an A1C of 9. If you're running around normal levels, you'll have an A1C. I mean, anything
7.
above 6.5 is considered diabetic.
Which
I personally think you're better off to do the short spike that you get with things like rice and stuff like that and pastas than to do the slow burn and long load like you do with like a baked potato.
Mm-hmm. And I love baked potatoes.
I eat baked potatoes a lot. So
I know, so do I. And my A1C was astronomically high, and then he's like, "Wow, we'll have to work on getting this down." And I started going through what diet things affect that. When I realized baked potato was one of them, I was eating 2 to 3 baked potatoes a week. I just cut baked potatoes out of my diet and drastically crashed my A1C.
I never got
the sad
tested.
thing is you can't eat baked potatoes.
I gotta get a stab.
That's also another psychological and a psychological thing. You can eat everything; it's just quantity and knowing when
moderation and understanding what you're. So, like, if I knew I was going to eat lasagna tonight for dinner, then I wouldn't have a sandwich or toast or things like that for lunch and breakfast. I just save my carb for the evening, have my carb then, and then I'm not because I used to live on carbs. Okay, I ran an Italian restaurant, so spaghetti and pastas and fresh baked breads and pizza dough and all that. I mean, it's just carb. Okay, so cutting carbs out was like a huge thing in my life, but ultimately that's what I had to do, is bring carbs under control. I don't eliminate carbs. I still have carbs. I do quality over quantity. And if I'm going to have bread, then I want something fresh baked and something really
Rainey
nice.
has some garlic cheese bread going up there too from earlier when she did the lasagna.
I mean, that's the same thing with the Italians, because even when they're approached to pasta as opposed to Americans, they have a small appetizer size portion, 4 bites of it, as opposed to here, you have a whole big bowl that's your entire meal.
Well, look at the American diet. So back in the Victorian period, the dinner plate was like a 6 or 7 inch plate. Now it's an 8 or 9 inch plate.
Sure.
That's huge. That's gigantic. And people just you have a bigger plate, you put more food on it. You have a small plate, and a small amount of food looks like a lot of food.
That reminds me of the opening to the movie, Mike Myers movie, So I Married an Axe Murderer. It shows the camera is sitting on the waitress's tray, and she's carrying a couple of cups of coffee, and she's navigating through this crowded cafe.
Yeah.
And they get to him, and she picks it up and she puts it down in front of him. It's a cup about this big cappuccino or something. And he says, "Pardon me, I'm sorry, but I believe I ordered the large cappuccino." So,
and like with everything we've discussed tonight, it's all a matter of perspective.
Yes, it's all perspective.
It's all a matter of, I mean, if you like with the plates, I mean, that's 2/3 of what people pay, out of pocket for the Nutrisystem, Nutrisystem. You're eating off of a quarter plate versus, a regular plate. But it's all a matter of perspective and what we consider good and not good. It relates back to
Matthew
topic. See you, Matthew. The topic of what divides us and what unites us, right? I mean, what we have in common versus what rather than focusing on the differences. America is all about celebrating diversity and what they bring, what other people bring to the table, but there has to be some threads of commonality. I mean, that's the idea of social groups and contracts and government is supposed to be for. It's supposed to be for the group, the betterment of the group. So protection, and then you get to our types of government where it's like to the other extreme. So as far as
I would say I would be against anything that, everything is wide open. Your opinions are wide open, the way you view things, until you try to mandate things on someone else. Other than things that are like common sense. You don't kill somebody for their car, or something like that. So anyway, on that note, Sarah, I'm going to end this. It's 10:56. Technically, we have 3.5 minutes left, but I'll take 3.5 minutes saying goodbye. So,
all right. Thanks.
I
guys.
appreciate
for
you
sure.
coming in and sharing your mind, Sarah.
Anytime.
All right, darling. We'll see you later. And Field Guy, good to see you, brother. Thanks for coming in. And I'll
No
see you
problem.
again Friday.
I'll be there. I promise.
All right.
Have a
See
good
ya.
night.
Good night. And Uncle Dave, same for you.
Yeah, I'll do my best to be there Friday. Monday and
All right.
Tuesday have been crazy for me, so I didn't.
Yeah, I've had a crazy
came in
week.
at the tail end of all your shows just because, well, life here, taking care of the parents,
Yeah.
has interrupted life in a big way. And plus, I've got my brother who's been going through major surgery out in Las Vegas. Got a 3:45 a.m. call from the doctor wanting permission to do something. I'm like, yeah, do it. Why are we waking me up?
Yeah,
They have to
yeah.
have next of kin to and I'm listed as his next of kin, so
Oh
it's
boy. Yeah,
been crazy.
I'll bet.
So
Well, good luck dealing with that. I've just been busy working, and so
I know I haven't talked to the
Burning
kids or
too much.
Randy or anybody. It seems like in ages, but give them all a big hug for me and let
I
them know I'm
will.
thinking about them.
I will. Flynn and I are going tomorrow to
Where to?
see the Lord of the Rings.
Ah, awesome!
It's the
What a great bonding
4.5
experience.
hour, 4 hour and 22-minute long version. The director's full cut. So
Awesome.
they're playing one
Awesome.
day only in the theaters. So Flynn and I are going tomorrow evening. We have to go down to Hastings. That's the closest place we could find one playing. They're all sold out all over the cities. So
Well, have a great time with that. I wish I could go to that
we
with you.
shall.
That'd just be
We
so
shall
awesome.
indeed. All right, Dave, you have a good night.
All right.
Talk to you
Talk
soon.
to you later.
And everybody else, thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for giving me your time. I hope you had a good time. And I'm going to get out of here. We'll see you again Friday night, and we'll take it from there. So live long and prosper.